You know that feeling like life has turned into one never-ending to-do list? Wake up early, take care of the house, worry about work, be there for your kids, your partner, your family. And then by the end of the day, you realize you didn't have even one single minute for yourself. If that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. So many women are living this non-stop routine, juggling a million roles: mom, professional, wife, daughter, friend. And in all that chaos, it's easy to feel like a big piece of who you are just got lost along the way. The emotional and mental overload hits hard when it feels like everything depends on you. That constant pressure can lead to a quiet but powerful question: who am I beyond all of this? Over time, that strong, dream-filled woman you used to be might start to feel buried under responsibilities and life's expectations. And the result? Feeling completely disconnected from who you were, and even worse, not knowing how to get back to her. The good news? You don't have to stay stuck in that place. This whole text was written to help you reflect on the woman you are beyond the roles you play. We're going to talk about how you got to this point, how to start reclaiming your identity, and most importantly, how to reconnect with who you really are. So if you've ever found yourself wondering, where did I go in the middle of all this? This is your moment to start finding your way back. Because your essence is still in there, just waiting for a chance to shine again. Ever had that feeling like no matter how much you do, it's never enough? Like the to-do list just keeps getting longer, and even when you're giving it your all, something's always missing? That's the reality for so many women who, after taking on so many responsibilities, end up losing sight of themselves. Emotional and mental overload kicks in when it feels like everything is on your shoulders. And let's be honest, most of the time it really is. Whether at work or at home, you're always available, always handling it all. And it's not that you don't want to take care of the people around you, but when you're juggling so many roles, something's gotta give. And most of the time, that something is you. Over time, that exhausting routine starts to pull you further and further away from who you are deep down. Maybe you used to have hobbies, little moments just for yourself, things that made you feel good. But now, when you do get a break, all you want to do is crash. And sometimes not even that's possible. This hits even harder during big life changes, like becoming a mom or taking on more responsibility at work. Little by little, the woman you once were gets hidden behind the hardworking professional, the loving mom, or the partner who's holding it all together. I've heard so many friends say, I don't even know who I am without all these responsibilities. And the truth is, when we're stretched that thin, that loss of identity is real. It's like the roles we play start to define us, and suddenly we forget who we are outside of them. But here's the thing, your essence hasn't gone anywhere. It might be buried under a pile of to-dos and expectations, but it's still there, waiting for you to notice it again. Admitting you're overwhelmed and realizing how that's affected your sense of self is the first step to finding your way back. Now that we've unpacked how we got here, the next big question is, who were you before you got lost in all this? Let's figure that out together in the next chapter. Because sometimes looking back is the best way to figure out how to move forward. Let me ask you something. Do you remember who you were before all this? Before the never-ending responsibilities, the constant rush, the demands that never seemed to stop? Do you remember that version of you who had dreams, favorite things, personal goals, who could spend hours doing something she loved without even checking the time? I know, maybe that feels like a lifetime ago. Maybe it feels impossible to get back to her. But here's the good news. That version of you is still in there, hiding somewhere in your heart, just waiting for a chance to come back. The thing is, over time we get used to living for everyone else. We start letting go of the things that made us happy because there's always something more important to do. And little by little, we start defining ourselves by the roles we take on: mom, professional, partner, daughter. But here's the truth. None of those roles define all of who you are. Let's try something together. Grab a piece of paper and a pen, and write a letter to yourself, as if you were talking to the woman you were before all the responsibilities showed up. Talk about the things you used to love doing, the dreams you had, the little things that made you smile. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a sweet reminder of who you were, and honestly, who you still are deep down. Let me give you an example. I did this exercise a while ago and realized that, way back, I used to love painting. Not that I was some kind of artist or anything, but it made me happy. It was my calm moment, my way of connecting with myself. And you know what I realized? I had totally let that go. I was so focused on checking off my daily list that I stopped doing something that actually made me feel good. So, I decided to give it another shot. I bought a little paint set, And every now and then, I gift myself that moment again. It might seem like a small thing, but believe me, it was the start of reconnecting with myself. And it can be the same for you. It doesn't have to be anything big. Sometimes, just remembering what used to make you happy is already a huge step. And even if your routine is intense and it feels like there's never time, it's worth trying, even if it's just for 5 minutes at the end of the day. Because the truth is, reconnecting with your essence starts with giving space to the little things that make your soul smile. And here's a super important reminder. You didn't stop being who you were. You just kind of forgot for a little while. That version of you is still alive, still there, just waiting to be rediscovered. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about small daily practices that help you stay connected to yourself, even in the middle of a busy life. Because reconnecting with your essence doesn't need to be some big, complicated process. It can be light, simple, and part of your everyday flow. The truth is, even when we remember who we used to be before we got lost in the routine, reconnecting with that version of ourselves isn't always easy. Life keeps demanding so much, and before we know it, we've put ourselves on the back burner again. But you know what? It doesn't have to be that way. I'm not talking about quitting everything and running off to a retreat in the mountains, unless that's your vibe, of course. I'm talking about little things, small daily habits that actually fit into your life and help you reconnect with yourself and keep that connection alive. You know that quiet moment when the house is finally calm, maybe before bed or even while you're in the shower. Those are perfect moments for a little introspection. Nothing fancy. Just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, how am I really doing today? We're so used to taking care of everything and everyone around us that we forget to check in with ourselves. Just asking yourself that question, really listening, that's already a step toward reconnection. Something else that helps. Find something that brings you pure joy. Maybe it's an old hobby, like I mentioned earlier. Or maybe it's something totally new. I have a friend who got into gardening. At first, she thought she didn't have the time or patience for it, but she gave it a try. Now she says taking care of her plants feels like therapy. That little bit of time with her hands in the dirt became a peaceful, grounding part of her day. And if you're thinking, I don't have time for any of this, trust me, I get it. Life can feel like it's swallowing you whole. But sometimes it's just about making yourself a priority. What if you set aside just 5 minutes a day for you? Maybe in the morning before everyone wakes up, or at night when things settle down. What matters most is that it's your moment. No interruptions, just something that brings you back to yourself. And I know, 5 minutes sounds like nothing, but try it. Use those 5 minutes to do something that makes you feel good. Listen to a song you love, write down how your day went, or just sit in silence and breathe. Whatever it is, make sure those minutes belong to you. Creating a cozy space can help too. Doesn't have to be big. Just a little corner of the house that feels good to be in. Light a candle, add a plant, maybe a cozy blanket, anything that brings you peace. That space will remind you that you deserve time to take care of yourself. That reconnecting with your own soul is just as important as everything else you're handling. Little by little, these practices start becoming part of your life. And the most beautiful part? When you take care of yourself, when you rediscover and reconnect with who you really are, it starts to change everything around you too. Life feels lighter, challenges don't hit as hard, and people around you will feel that shift. In the next chapter, we'll talk about something super important in this whole process: learning to set healthy boundaries. Because there's no point in reconnecting with your true self if you're not protecting that version of you from the outside world draining your energy. When we talk about finding ourselves again and taking care of our essence, there's one thing we have to talk about: learning how to say no. I know, just hearing that can feel uncomfortable. How many times have we felt guilty for not wanting, or not being able, to do it all? It's like saying no means we're letting someone down. But that's not true. Setting boundaries is actually saying yes to yourself. Maybe this sounds familiar. Someone asks for help, adds a task to your plate at work, or wants a favor. And even though you're totally exhausted, you say yes without even thinking. Why do we do that? A lot of the time, it's because we're scared of disappointing people. We think if we're not always available, we might be rejected or judged. But here's the truth. When we say yes to everything, we cross our own limits. And that takes us even further away from who we are. Setting healthy boundaries doesn't make you selfish. It means you recognize your own needs and respect them. And yeah, it's not easy, especially if you're used to being the one who takes care of everything. Saying no or passing a task to someone else can feel awkward at first, but it's necessary. So how about we start small? Think about 3 recent situations where you felt totally overwhelmed because you didn't set a boundary. Could be at work, at home, or even with friends. Now ask yourself, what would have happened if you had said no? Most of the time, the outcome wouldn't have been nearly as bad as we imagined. This simple reflection helps you realize you really don't have to carry the whole world on your shoulders. I remember this convo I had with a friend who works in a super high-pressure environment. She told me she'd been pulling all-nighters trying to deliver everything perfectly. One day, totally exhausted, she had to tell her boss she couldn't take on an extra task within the deadline. And to her surprise, he totally understood. Instead of criticizing her, he reassigned the task. That was the moment she realized setting boundaries didn't make her less professional. If anything, it made her respect herself more. Another huge thing? Setting boundaries at home too. A lot of times, we women end up taking on most of the household responsibilities, even when everyone else could pitch in. Learning to delegate is key here. Yeah, it can be hard at first, because we always think that if we don't do it ourselves, it won't be done, right? But we've got to remember, our energy is valuable, and taking care of ourselves is just as important as taking care of everyone else. And learning to say no without guilt? That's a whole process. Start small. If someone asks you for something and you feel like you just can't take it on, try saying, "Let me think about it and I'll get back to you." Giving yourself that pause helps you figure out if you really want or can say yes. With time, it gets easier, and honestly, it's so freeing to respect your own limits. In the next chapter, we're going to dive into building self-confidence, because setting boundaries can shake us a bit at first. But that confidence grows when we start valuing ourselves and recognizing our true worth. You ever feel like you've got to do more, be more, just to feel like you're enough? Yeah, a lot of us carry that feeling without even noticing. When we're overwhelmed and disconnected from who we are, our self-confidence goes right out the window. It's like we slowly stop believing in our own worth. But here's the good news. Your confidence didn't vanish. It just needs to be brought back to life. Let me tell you something that happened to me. There was a point in my life when I was so deep into work, home stuff, kids, and just life in general, that when someone asked me what I liked to do, I had no clue. I honestly didn't know if I was good at anything besides putting out daily fires. I lost confidence in even the tiniest decisions, always feeling like nothing I did was good enough. That's when I realized I needed to start looking at myself differently. Building self-confidence doesn't happen overnight. It's like a little plant. You've got to water it every day with small actions that remind you of your worth. One thing that really helped me was celebrating small wins. You know how we usually only feel proud when something big happens, like a promotion or some major milestone? Yeah, forget that. If today you managed to say no to something that would have drained you, or even just took a break when you needed it, that's a win. And it deserves to be celebrated. Another big one? Watch how you talk to yourself. We're usually so kind to everyone else, but brutal with ourselves. Ever notice that? When a friend messes up, you're like, "Hey, it's okay. Everybody makes mistakes." But when it's you, that inner voice goes, "Ugh, how could you mess that up? You should have known better." Start catching yourself when that happens. And when you do, ask yourself, if this were my best friend going through this, what would I say to her? Something else that makes a huge difference? Surround yourself with people who lift you up. I'm not saying you've got to cut ties with everyone who doesn't, but make space for those who support you, who encourage you to take care of yourself and respect your own limits. That could be a close friend, a family member, or even someone you just message from time to time. The important thing is to have someone in your corner, because in moments like these, even one kind word can change everything. Oh, and if there's one lesson I've learned in this journey, it's this. You don't have to be perfect to feel like you're enough. Let me say that again because it matters. You don't have to be perfect to be enough. Nobody's got it all figured out all the time. And that's okay. What really matters is knowing that your value doesn't come from how much you do. It comes from simply being who you are, with all your ups and downs. When we start rebuilding that inner confidence, the boundaries we talked about earlier start to make more sense. And from there, life begins to feel lighter with more meaning. Speaking of which, next chapter, we'll talk about rediscovering your purpose and how to bring more joy and meaning into your everyday life. Because reconnecting with your true self also means remembering what lights you up, what makes you you. Have you ever asked yourself what your purpose is? Sometimes that word sounds so huge, like you need some big life mission for things to make sense. But honestly, purpose doesn't have to be complicated. It's in the little things that give your day meaning. It's whatever makes your heart beat a little faster and gives you the motivation to keep going, even when things get tough. I remember this talk I had with Julia, an old coworker. She told me she'd lost her sense of direction after becoming a mom. "I live for my kids," she said. "But what about me? Where do I fit in all of this?" She felt so drained by the daily demands that she'd forgotten what used to make her eyes sparkle. During that conversation, I asked her, "What made you happy before all this?" She thought for a second and said, "I used to love doing paper origami, but it's been so long." Little by little, Julia started getting back into that old hobby. She carved out 15 minutes at night, after the kids were asleep, to sit down and do some origami, not just to fold paper, but to shape little moments of personal reconnection. It wasn't anything big or fancy, but it was hers. That quiet time became a gentle reminder of who she was beyond being a mom or a professional. And over time, she started finding more joy in the small things, and more importantly, started feeling connected to herself again. Rediscovering your purpose doesn't mean flipping your life upside down or walking away from everything. Sometimes it's already there, hiding in the things you used to love but left behind somewhere along the way. Maybe it's cooking, reading, writing, tending to your plants, or simply taking a moment for yourself, without guilt. Want to try a little exercise right now? Grab a piece of paper and write down 3 things you used to love doing that made you feel truly happy. Now think, how can you bring at least one of those things back into your daily life, even if it's just for a few minutes? No matter how small it seems, that little action could be the first step to adding more purpose to your everyday routine. Another great way to rediscover your purpose is to think about the people who inspire you. What is it about them that really speaks to your heart? A lot of the time, your answer will connect with values that matter deeply to you too. Maybe it's helping others, creating something new, teaching, learning, caring. Whatever it is, let those inspirations remind you of who you are and what truly moves you. And here's something important to remember. Purpose isn't fixed. It changes as you change. What makes sense to you now might not feel the same in 5 years, and that's totally okay. What matters is that, in each phase of your life, you stay connected to whatever brings you joy and makes your days feel meaningful. The truth is, life's never going to be totally calm. There will always be challenges, responsibilities, and days where you feel totally lost. But when you have a sense of purpose, even a tiny one, those tough moments are easier to handle. Because deep down, you know you're walking a path that means something to you. So here's a question for you to sit with. What gets you out of bed every morning? And hey, if you don't know the answer yet, that's okay. What matters is that you start looking for it. And that search, it's already a powerful first step toward rediscovering the joy of being you. In the next chapter, we're going to wrap everything up and give you a gentle push to start putting this into practice today. Because you deserve a life with more purpose, and most of all, more ease and lightness. We've come to the end of this conversation, but really, this journey is just beginning. Feeling overwhelmed, wearing too many hats, and losing touch with yourself is something so many women go through. But that doesn't mean you have to stay stuck in that cycle forever. The most important thing is recognizing that you deserve to be the main character in your own story. And from that moment on, it's about taking small steps toward reconnecting with yourself. Throughout this journey, we've talked about how the pressure of daily life can dim your inner light, how revisiting your past self can be healing, the power of self-care, the importance of setting boundaries, and how confidence and purpose help bring you back to life. And you don't need to do all of this at once. Start with whatever feels doable right now. Maybe that's carving out a little quiet time at the end of your day. Maybe it's finally saying that no, you've been holding back. Or maybe it's simply taking a deep breath and asking yourself, what do I want today? This is a self-discovery journey that doesn't have a deadline. It doesn't matter if you take big steps or baby steps. What matters is that you keep moving. And I want you to know this, you are not alone. So many women are walking this same path, and together we can share, support, and uplift one another. So I'd love to know, what part of this really spoke to you? What insight are you taking with you that could shift your daily life? I truly want to hear how this landed with you. And if you feel comfortable, share your thoughts, suggestions, or personal stories. Because real stories inspire more real stories. And your journey might be the spark another woman needs to start her own. And of course, if this content resonated with you, hit that subscribe button to keep following along for more reflections, tips, and conversations about self-discovery, wellness, and living with purpose. Together, we can build lives that feel lighter and more aligned with who we really are. So how about it? Why not take that first step today? You deserve to be happy and to live fully as your truest self. Thanks for being here. We're in this together.